because this is what it does. It appeals to like the male fantasy.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome back.
Welcome to this. What episode is this?
One? I don't know.
6 or 7.
It's repeat, like.
But it's going to be part 1 of 4 for our next book.
It needs a title.
We're now.
And then it goes back to chapter 1. Like
Yeah,
this book we're reading.
I consider now we're officially in the holiday season because Halloween was yesterday.
Fun.
And now it's November.
First.
Just when we hit October 31st is when I'm actually ready for all the spooky stuff to last for a month.
Christmas
so
was
October
spooky.
Needs to be like
I'm looking forward to that.
Well, yeah, we may have a spooky Christmas, which will be fun.
Yeah.
But now we're in the holiday season officially. It's the perfect time for a demonic tale of necromancy. It's lighthearted, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bring me the head of
Prince Charming.
That's what you need to say.
Yeah, so this is episode or part 1 of 4 for Bring Me the Head of Prince Charming by Roger Zelazny and Robert Sheckley. So someday maybe we'll get to something serious, but this is another fun one. And if you haven't read it before, you're gonna have an enjoyable ride. I think the tone is even a little bit lighter and wackier than Zelazny would tend to be. I'm guessing that's Sheckley's influence. And I'd say this kind of ends up being like Terry Pratchett level wacky fantasy kind of thing.
Kind
so
of
Christopher Moore, the genre is different though.
Yeah.
The style is definitely different.
Yeah. It also reminded me of is it Rick Riordan? I was telling you that earlier.
You were telling me about that. I haven't read him though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just some of the Greek mythology gods. And and yeah, let's get into it. Chapter 1, but also Mantis, hero sandwich.
Yeah. This is the first chapter 1. There will be multiple chapter 1s. It's not actually that hard to follow us once we get going. It's just hard to communicate ahead of time a little bit. So what's going on?
Oh well, it's like just takes you straight into these like pits of hell.
Yep.
And it's like, oh wow, just torture on top of torture. But then it kind of gets funny, and they're like, oh, only they introduce how do you say his name?
In my head,
Ozzy
it sounds
or Azzy?
Azzy.
That's what it sounds like to me too. Okay, so Azzy. And they're like, Azzy was permitted to wear sunglasses, as only the higher demons could wear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sort of establishes that he's not at the complete bottom of the hierarchy of the supernatural world or the demonic world, because he's overseeing some imps, but he gets to have sunglasses. He's not at the top. He's stuck doing some grunt work for some reason in the region in which they called North Discomfort 405.
Later. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the imps like to eat people marinated. I like they like really describe this whole world really well. And it's just like, it's awful and terrible, but funny at the same time. Like, how is this possible?
Very casual.
I really like that. Yeah. Just like, just stuck here until I get my time's up.
So the pit that Azzy is kind of supervising in explains that it's from Babylonian times, so it's kind of like supernatural is not exactly eternal, So there's development and sequence and over time, but that pit was developed in Babylonian times, which is written. It says that times when people really knew how to sin.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're kind of talking about like terms and like, oh, you can get there. You have a certain amount of time there, and he has like hours and hours, 1,000 hours. I can't remember.
His shift is like 200 hours, and it gets 3 hours off.
And then
But
it goes
it's
back.
instead of like the hell and the pits, it's not enjoyable.
Yeah.
So like for the demons, it's somewhat hellish for them too.
Yeah, he's
but
like
not as bad as it is for the mortals that are in there.
Exactly.
For their punishment.
Yeah, and he's like, since hope itself is counted by some of the most diabolical torments.
Yeah,
this may be
I
exaggeration of churchmen. Yeah,
I like that passage.
Who scribble about such things? So then we get introduced to. They're like, oh, you gotta find this character. You gotta get Thomas out. You gotta get him free and take him back because it's been some mistake.
Yeah, the messenger tells Azzy that he's got like another duty to do. He has to go find somebody that was mistakenly brought to hell like too early, like wasn't dead, and death pulled him in anyway. And so he's got to go get him and send him back, like put him in his body.
And out of all these like hundreds of piles of body that may or may not be well arranged. So he finally finds him, and he's got to get out, return to his family, and get him to live sufficiently. And he's responsible for his upkeep.
Yeah. So in chapter 2, it's a little bit of the process, the journey of he found Scrivener and then he's bringing him back to the surface. There's some
like, they wipe his memory.
EMS
They're like,
vehicle
you're not gonna remember that
picks him up.
Yeah.
I liked it in the other demon just like pokes him in the forehead. And as he asks, what did you do to him? I put him on idle.
And he's like, oh, touching a demon touching you in the head's not the best. I like how they always like they describe demons so much in detail. Like, I never really thought I liked demons as much as I do now. They're so fascinating. Yeah.
So many different kinds from different eras and different religions, and they're just all part of the overall supernatural world.
It's like weird.
In this fantasy universe, they're not like the physical world or the more normal.
They give them such humanistic qualities. Yeah.
And then this is they're supernatural creatures, the demons and such.
So he kind of talks about his like backstory about a little bit as he's like, oh, I was in here for gambling debt.
That's why he has.
And then he's like, oh, I had a problem with gambling debt. He's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, me too.
He got this job that is maybe a little bit below his typical station because he has gambling debts.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, I'll meet up with you later. I don't want to ride in that nasty mobile.
Yeah.
And then he's like, how are you gonna find him? And he's like, has the invisible address like tattooed on him. And that was funny.
Yeah, some weird address tattooed on the Thomas Scrivener's chest, but apparently nobody else can see it. I just noticed these chapters move pretty quick the way it's broken up. I don't know if it actually makes it feel like it all moves along faster. Maybe it would feel the same if the chapters were lumped together in bigger sections too, but as an editing choice way, it seems like it moves the story fast.
Yeah, I feel like it's fun.
Yeah.
Laid out well. I wonder, is it a different time in Colorado or far away?
Yeah, well, I think we did have a change.
Let's see your sister there. Someone.
Well, the daylight savings may have swapped, and we don't do that here. So if you see this later, Sorry,
Thanks for
your
coming again.
state is crazy. Chapter 3. Thomas Scrivener is returned home and starts to see the other bits of his personality and why he's not like the greatest guy. Maybe
And
that's why
she's like yelling at everyone, like, do that. So as he has
his body had been sold to science by his wife.
Yeah,
And she's like not really happy that
she's
he's
like,
not dead.
why are you
I thought we were done with
I was trying to get money from your dead body.
you.
She's all pissed. Yeah.
Oh, Jenny says maybe it's next weekend that it changes.
Okay. Well,
So maybe
I'm happy
change.
to
We didn't
hear
screw
from
that
you.
up. That's good.
Sorry. Yay.
I need my glasses to figure out if we can make this better focused or not.
I think somehow I'm in focus, but you're not.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what you're saying too. It's not just me.
Uh-huh.
Do I need to be further back?
No.
Further
Be
in.
closer in. Yeah.
Closer in.
Closer in.
And then I don't even think you're that much closer. I'll
Hmm.
tell you what we can do.
No.
We're all about quality.
Get on the quality
Is that any
here.
better? A little bit more in focus or no?
You're halfway in hell.
I'm halfway.
The fuzziness.
I
Oh
think
no.
the Mitch Hedberg joke.
Halfway in hell.
No, the about Sasquatch.
Do tell.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it was one of his. So about like why the pictures Sasquatch are always blurry. It's a Bigfoot. Bigfoot just is blurry. Maybe I'm just.
Sasquatch.
It's not the camera setup. I'm just blurry.
Blurry.
I'm blurry. He told it better, but I am not on the same drugs that he was. So I'm gonna blame that.
Yeah. So as he has this amulet of invisibility,
Yes.
he's trying to be blurry too, but this little girl caught him, and she put this like from the priest's robe. She's like, "Oh, I'll just make this string out of the priest's robe and tie it around him."
She accidentally walked off with some holy relic piece of string,
And she's like,
and
"Oh,
managed to trap the demon.
yeah."
A little ribbon to him.
Yeah, tied him up, and his amulet was on empty somehow.
Yeah.
So
He's
it couldn't
blaming
cover
those
him
people
up.
at Supply for not
So,
checking the charge.
Bridget is her name, and she's like, I want to ask for wishes. Like, I didn't even know that was something you could do, but she's like,
Yeah, there's a
you know
whole
what?
negotiation. It starts off with like, "Oh, I'll give you toys," and then
It's
she
like,
says,
no,
"Well,
I'm a
maybe you
good
could come
demon.
and
I'm
pick."
watching over your father.
Yeah, which is part of that's true.
True.
She wanted like the really sad part. She was just asking if he would come play with her.
Yeah, she's like, just play with me and hang out.
Yeah, I'll let you go if
You're like,
you
no.
like no. I got shit to do. I can't do that.
Yeah.
But
She asked for a wish,
yeah,
and we don't know what.
that's for 3 originally, and then he negotiates it down to 1.
Yeah,
but it
like,
has to be reasonable.
Yeah. This must be reasonable, and lots of toys and clothes. And
So she lets him go for the little
he
string.
keeps his promise, and Thomas got all better. So there's some promise for an unknown wish out there. Yeah. Chapter 4.
So you ever have a job where occasionally you get to go out and you like run an errand, and so you just take as long as you can so you don't have to go back to work?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's true.
Well, that's what Ad's does. Because he has his task where he's leaving his supervisor position in the pit for a little bit, and then he's supposed to go like take care of Thomas Scrivener, and he's like, yeah, he's doing fine. I'm gonna go run around even though I'm supposed to be back at work.
Yeah. We're running some errands. Yeah. So then he like disguises himself as a portly man, and he is like walking down the street, and this like priestess is like, you come into my tent, and he comes into her tent, and he's like, oh, this reminds me of such a great time. And it's like this spooky kind of I don't know what they called it, but it seemed spooky to me.
Yeah.
But he's like, it feels so
With
comfortable
it had
here.
Kabbalistic emblems on it or something.
Yeah.
The only thing that's kind of like remembering him he's familiar with, because everything else has changed on Earth since the last time he was there.
Yeah. So then she somehow says, I'm Hermes' priestess, and Hermes wants to speak with you. So and they kind of talk about a little bit about Hermes, and you're like, what? This is from Roman times, and how is this connecting? But he's like, oh yeah, we're like, now I just keep flipping of what I do, and now I'm Hermes of alchemy, so it's all good. They still worship me. No problem. So he meets with him, and then he's catching up, all that, and then
if
he's like, it's almost
earlier,
time.
The kind of this was where kind of sort of establishing the year where this is supposed to be occurring.
It's almost been that time for the contest.
Yeah, so I think they're supposed to occur about like year 1000 AD.
Yeah, it's catching year 1000.
1000 AD.
Yeah.
So there's a millennial contest between good and evil.
Good and evil.
Sort of getting the overall premise of the story set up a little bit more.
And Hermes is like backing them up, and he's like, so
you should enter.
You should enter. I have this great idea.
So Hermes is,
I'm an all-powerful god, and
his
that's
first
what I want
appearance
to do.
is kind of like leading. Seems like he's sort of leading Azzy into something.
Yeah, he's like, so you like to gamble, and Azzy's like, heck yeah.
Well, he needs funds. He needs money.
Yeah.
In order to like finance the contest entry, which don't know what it is yet. It's not been determined.
And he's like, how can I do that? And he's like, well, you can get this amulet, this of good luck. You just have to go find it. And there's kind of this area that you might be able to find it.
Yeah. Hermes is like, well, you need money for the contest. So you go play poker to get the money. And to play poker, you're going to go get a lucky charm.
Yeah. And in like somewhere in the back of my mind, I was like, so you're an all-powerful god, why don't you just give it to him? But then I'm like, oh, it like kind of leads the story on more, so I get it. Okay.
I don't know about all-powerful.
And it kind of how
anyway.
I mean, he's one of many gods.
He's a supernatural god. Another spot I just described him. We call him a mage. Calls Hermes a mage.
A mage.
Yeah.
I mean, seems lower quality.
But if you can't have more than one all-powerful being.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry, no.
Because the other ones would like
a lot of power.
Yeah,
a god.
Powerful, magical, supernatural creature. Yeah. A god. It's like, hey, go do this. Oh, what's the spot?
So then it goes on to chapter 4 or 5, sorry, of that section. And there's a little dwarf digging. Dwarf digging.
Yeah.
And
as he finds the spot that Hermes is sending him to, and it says he just like goes and he shoots down into the earth. And explains that demons kind of can move in earth, sort of like it's water.
And they're like, it's just so comfy here, and nice, and lack of anything. And then there's like a dwarf needs to dig to feel alive, like that.
But there's some kind of like demon versus dwarf conflict going on. They both like the earth.
Yeah.
So some like territorial
like those
thing.
spaces, and
Jenny says it's easier to empty a dwarf's pockets because when you hold them upside down, their feet don't touch. Well, I mean, they wouldn't if they're upside down anyway.
You can hold them higher.
Easier to shake.
Yeah. Shake.
They're upside down.
Shake the little one. Yeah, so they have this kind of
And
like
you can toss them when
feud
you're
and
Dwarf tossing.
yeah, dwarf toss. So he met
That's
this
Lord of the
dwarf
Rings.
and he's like, "What's your name?" Ragnar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he's suspicious. He's like, "I'm just cleaning up the earth. That's what us dwarves do."
He is ineffectively like pushing rocks around inside a cave with a pick.
Yeah.
Instead of, like he was up to something.
So, yeah, he's like, so he's sniffed about because apparently, another new thing I learned, demons have good sense of smell.
Very important.
Yeah, so he sniffed out the stone, shakes him.
He finds like a bag.
A little pouch.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so he doesn't really shake the dwarf. He shakes the pouch, right?
Yeah.
Or does he shake the dwarf?
Jenny just wants him to shake
the
the dwarf.
dwarf. Just shake the dwarf.
It's just some kind of shaking action that she's looking for.
So
I like the bit where it's sort of think about lucky ambulance, lucky charms,
lucky dwarf.
lucky whatever. I said like if somebody's in possession of it, then it's naturally theft resistant because it would be unlucky to the possessor to lose it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they say this in a few stories. You're like, oh, it's totally he's not gonna find it. And then they like switch it up and he knows. But then he sniffs it out and shakes out the bag and gets this amulet. But then he's kind of good to him in a way. And it surprises me. Azzy. He's like, let me strike you a deal. Like, what is this dwarf gonna do to him? Like, what power? Maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know what dwarf powers are. But
yeah, especially one-on-one, the dwarf doesn't have a chance.
Yeah, but he's like, oh, you're gonna get interest off of this.
But he cons him.
Yeah, he cons him instead of just like
steals his stuff. He doesn't kill him and take it.
Like,
but
I'm gonna pay you back.
Him. And so he's like talking about make money work for you, and it's like, oh, it's a concept I've never heard before. It's like, oh, it's from my future.
Yeah, from the future. Money works for you. Yeah, so that I find that really interesting.
And then he makes the dwarf think that it's a good thing that he's
gonna get
taking
his money back,
his jewels and his Felixite.
Yeah.
His
lucky charm
nugget,
stone.
whatever it is. And like, hey, here, I'll give you some your profit already, and he gives him back a little bit of what he was stealing from.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, I'm making money already.
Yeah. So then he explains all the loans and interest and all that, and then it goes on to chapter 6, and he's flying to Rome.
We played some poker in a cemetery.
That's right. Rome was the favorite of demons. Who knew? These interesting facts about demons. I had no clue. Demons see best at night also. And find some games. And there's humans on the spit.
Yeah, the succubus offers him some snacks. This is another like casual mentioning of like, they eat people.
Yeah, they just eat people.
Stuff.
All right.
And they don't use chips for gambling with. What do they use? Primarily.
You tell me.
Body parts.
Oh, yes. So they
have like chunks of people of different values and whether they're fresher or juicier and so that's what they're using for chips instead of
like one guy has the legs.
Yeah.
We should find later. Yeah. That he gets this gambling fever raging in his veins.
So he's not playing very well. He's actually losing most of the night, and as he's getting his ass kicked in poker, and he realizes like, oh, all these demons probably showed up with lucky charms, lucky amulets and stuff. But there's a
But
little
he kind of
turnaround at the
learns.
end.
Yeah, he kind of like listens or kind of figures it out, and then just plays whatever bad hand he has, and then it kind of works out.
Yeah,
And he
He was
wins.
way behind.
Woo!
He wins.
Yeah, and he's like, okay, now beginnings of an idea are starting to form. And then we hop into the next
So he
section.
gets his winnings, and his winnings say are a pair of legs.
A pair of legs, and then he gets like some other
they're
things.
Scarcely not on at all.
Some other, not even not at all. And then he gets like some other body parts and some coins and gems and whatnots.
Broken sword.
I wonder if gnomes eat people.
Gnomes or dwarves.
Or dwarves, yeah. It was the
Yeah.
gnomes. Yeah.
He's got the pot. The biggest of a night was raked over to Azzy. In it, aside from the pile of golden coins and gems and miscellaneous body parts, was the hilt of a sword, its blade broken off and tied around it a railed silk lady's favor. There was also a pair of human legs in very good condition, scarcely gnawed at all, and a fair amount of lesser stuff, knuckle bones, septums, a set of kneecaps, which he turned in for gold. And he probably would have gone back, like continued gambling, but the sun was coming up, and so it's just done.
Like, all right, gotta go.
Timing looked out. The whole game's got cut off, and he was ahead.
Who knew?
And that's the first.
Can't see very good. Time to get out of here.
And we're about to start over again.
Lauds.
Chapter 1 again.
Chapter 1 again.
Yeah.
Lauds or Frike.
That's the character that's introduced.
Okay.
Frike.
Yeah. I like the little
Lauds.
picture of him. So chapter 1. He decided to go to a great convention opening ceremonies for the millennial contest. He's like, okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm gonna go there.
Yeah. He still has to get into the game.
Yeah, and he's like hanging out in this like graveyard area, and he sets fire to these dry cadavers to stay warm, and then he's but yeah, he's like Hermes and other gods seem to follow a different destiny than demons or ghosts. They're unaffected by good and evil.
Yeah,
so
I think it's.
I was thinking, like, what's Hermes' hand then? Does he just want alchemy to continue, and that's kind of in the darker side, or it just makes me curious.
There's at least at one time a figure of Greek mythology, and that is much less black and white with the overall pantheon of gods.
Yeah, so he's like meeting with Hermes. Hermes, I don't know, just shows up, right?
Yeah,
and then
as he is making a soliloquy. Like over the legs.
Yeah, like, oh, maybe I won't eat those. They look
thinking out loud, philosophizing. And Hermes shows up.
Yeah. And then he like shows him what the legs are. He's like, those are legs of a coward.
Yeah.
And he just ran in death
we can see
out of fear. Like just continued raining these
of the
legs.
End of the life, that
just running in the war.
Legs, and like he ran away from battle. He wasn't even wounded yet, and then one of the very large soldiers from the opposing force cut him in half, and the legs keep running.
The legs keep running.
Really very hilarious.
Yeah.
Visual.
Yeah. So he's like, okay, I got these legs, and it's kind of building. What was he gonna do with them? And then he goes to chapter 2, and he had an idea from the legs and needed to go to a high committee. He's like, okay, I'm going to do this with this legs. I'm talk to this high committee.
Even more of his idea, his concept, is formed now they know where the legs came from.
And he's like, I have as good of a chance as a mortal which is not very good chance to like get in here. So I'm just gonna come with this wacky plan to just get to the committee. Even though
Like he just
and then he
goes,
talks about this.
he just walks in with such confidence that the guards are afraid to address him.
Yeah.
So he just let him
He's
in.
just like, and he kind of talks about this being who judges the games. Anarchy? Anarchy. Judge the contest between good and evil. And it seems like very hard to pin down, like, what is this being or thing that, like, judges the games?
Yeah. Also calls it necessity.
Yeah, it's interesting. And it talks about kind of just more the background of demons and how they need to be like under government because they're just pure chaos and
Something like the managing of evil.
the Bureau of
was the epitome
Conformity.
of evil.
Yeah. So there's like a Bureau of Conformity and I don't know, I just kind of like that like history and background of that. And yeah. And demons love to argue. So he breaks into the committee.
Yeah.
He's like, and they're like, what are you doing here? We were arguing.
Lowly middle.
Demons love to argue.
Mid-level manager demon.
Yeah.
Into the. What are they calling? He needs to go to see the game committee, but it's actually a meeting of the powers of evil.
Evil. Yeah.
Lasers on their head.
But then I just love how it kind of like ends the chapter. And it's just like, he had a precious thing, an idea.
Yes.
And then it goes into chapter 3.
Such a dangerous
Precious thing,
thing.
an idea. Massaging his beard, maybe. So, yeah.
The 3 opens up, reads, as these words hit upon a common concern among the Lord Demons, namely their need for an idea for the coming light versus dark festivities, a drama that would be their entry into the contest of good versus evil, and whose outcome would demonstrate, homiletically as it were, the superiority of evil, thus giving them the right to dominate man's destiny for the next 1,000 years.
So it's a drama contest.
A drama?
Drama.
Well, it's sort of, it's a very open concept. It's not a well-defined contest.
Yeah. Seems interesting. I guess we'll see. So they're like, yeah, let's do that. And then he's like, oh wait, am I skipping parts?
How dare you?
So, oh yeah,
He
so he
gets
convinced
approval.
them. This is chapter 3. Yeah, convince him. Gets his leg. He's something about the legs, and he's like, "There's this story about and demons love stories."
Mm-hmm.
And there's this, the princess is sleeping in a tower, and the princess has to go save her. But I'm gonna do a twist, but I'm not gonna quite tell you about the twist because that would ruin it.
Yeah.
And so they're like,
So I
let's
just
do
read this-
it.
Something like Sleeping Beauty and Prince Charming story, but he's going to corrupt it, and he's going to make sure that it's corrupted by choosing
Evil
body parts from like people that have undesirable qualities and
and he tells them about the legs, and the
Yeah.
coward's legs, and they're like, "Oh, that's
Sounds
what you're
like
gonna
he's
do." And he's like, "Well, that and
rebuilding that actors
Yeah.
that are going to
So
go
that was
into
fast.
this.
Yeah."
Yeah.
So and he's like, "I need lots of money," and they're like, "Okay, here's a credit card."
But then we
And
see
put it
like
anywhere
the
sinister.
whole poker game and him ripping off the dwarf. At least this part don't have any bearing because he ends up getting this black credit card from hell to pay for everything. So
yep.
his jewels don't matter. At least seems.
At least it seems. Mm. I like how they just put it anywhere sinister.
Put it anywhere sinister.
Where are you swiping these cards at?
And it's it's a very modern concept. Again, it's supposed to be like year 1000, and they're bringing in the credit card concept.
Yeah.
So, because the demons can, travel forward and backwards in time. There's a whole different structure to things. It was kind of amusing too.
It was.
So chapter 4, what's going on?
So then he's like, I'm gonna get a room as the portly man again. He's back in disguise. And then he's talks to the landlord and it's like, I want to post this job. And the landlord seems kind of sinister.
Yeah.
So then he's like, okay. And it's just like, I have a servant that could handle blood and guts. And he's like, okay, I'll post it up, whatever. And he's just like, yeah, sure. And
what was the other part with that?
A servant that could handle blood and guts.
Deeds I will require may not be entirely within the ken of the king's law.
Yeah. And he's like,
blood, guts,
all right, I
illegal
got you.
shit. We can totally find somebody like that. Don't
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of in the other book we're reading in the AI hotel, and he basically will do anything for him just to have a guest.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, I think the AI hotel is, capable on a whole nother level than the character that we end up getting.
Yeah.
But entirely different setting, too.
Yes.
I see how it might remind you of that.
Yeah. So first there was a poet who comes.
Yeah, he gets a couple of applicants.
Yeah.
For his open position.
And he gave him a task to bring a human skull and lady's fingers from the graveyard. And he's like, he just likes writing about those things. He doesn't actually want to do anything. And then a lady comes, and she's like, I know you asked for a man, but I can do it.
Yeah.
And she looks kind of evil looking.
Kind of
and
like maybe witchy looking.
Yeah,
or
and he's like, she just likes looking evil, but he gives her the same task.
Yeah.
Oh, you can give me a skull and lady's fingers from the graveyard. But, and she's like, ooh. She's like,
I know you advertised for a man, but I hope that you might not be adamant in that choice. I will make a wonderful servitor for you, Lord Azzy, and you can enjoy my favors into the bargain.
My favors, but he's like, oh.
Yeah, I think shuddered.
Just give me some skull and fingers.
Do the other part.
Never mind. So this is a fun little story, and then it's like, yeah, he's like, oh, they like to know and who they are, and likes to look evil, but she doesn't really like to do anything. She can hardly cut off a chicken head. Yeah. And then it goes into chapter 5, and I like how they're like, he's like, I'm gonna lay down, and the applicants didn't come back, and his dreams were tempted by good.
Oh yeah, that was
funny. Tempted by good. And how he lay down in bed, he was like, temptation, it's not good for demons to give up on temptation.
Yeah, they're not supposed to resist temptation. Yeah. So that's why he took a nap, because he was tempted to take a nap.
Because then he could be good, and then he had dreams about being good.
But he suspects that the figures in his dream that want him to come have some fun.
Yeah.
Didn't really care for evil.
Have some fun.
And so he tries
to don't care.
Resist them, and he recites the credo of evil. that the good is capable of assuming a pleasing form, and the demon must take care not to be seduced by that which only seems evil. This sounds very familiar, just the reverse of some other things.
Seems like a sexy nun.
Yeah, Judy contributes, I like the beginning of chapter 5, which said that demons are very interested in churches as they can be just as often used to serve evil.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was interesting in his dream. Maybe they were nuns also too, or I don't know.
Oh, in the dream.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, this whole theme of like
being
the tempting
dressed in white or something.
Good covered in evil. Yeah.
I don't know. If they were nuns, then it would be okay
in sheep clothing
for him to go.
Yeah.
And mess around.
Mess around.
I work with
but
this
you know
guy.
how dreams are.
It's fine. He told me about this great Halloween costume that I've never got to like try to pull off or emulate. But he said he went as a pregnant nun. He said at the time he also smoked cigarettes. So he's like got this big belly and he's dressed in a habit and he's just like smoking, drinking. He was probably like,
I wonder if that's only in
costume
America.
depicted him very pregnant, probably. So he's like 8-9 months and downing poison. That'd be funny.
So surprise! Knock at the door.
Wakes up Azzy.
Frike. He brought the things that was sought from the applicants, and it's like such a twist. You're like, what? What's this guy doing here?
Yeah, so the random guy shows up with the parts that the other people were supposed to show up with.
He got the parts from.
I think he did technically get them from the cemetery.
Yeah, he got them.
Killed their people to go.
He just slaughtered them. Just like, and then he's like, "Why'd you only give me 9 fingers? She only had 9. I don't know what happened to them."
She was missing a thumb when I got to her.
Yeah, and he's just like, "All right, you'll do. You're perfect.
You're hired.
You're hired."
It's just like that McDonald's interview.
It's the perfect. And then he's kind of like, he's like, "I will serve you, and I'll serve you even after death." So he's like, oh, okay, he knows what I am.
He's in the know.
He knows. Yeah. He's maybe been doing evil things for so long. He knows. So it goes on to chapter 6.
So they move from the inn where he recruited Frike to Chateau d'Artis. Or something. I don't speak French.
So they got everything together and they're there and they're trying to like get these body parts and they're trying to cover the smell with the ichor. Ichor? Yeah. And they ask Hermes for a favor, like, hey, we can't get a hold of this ichor, so can you like help us out? And then Hermes gets it for him because it's like starting to stink.
Hermes even
really
has some
bad.
pull and like operations of hell.
Yeah.
Ichor, I think, was also mentioned earlier in the book as something that the demons drank. It's like their number one beverage, sort of like a party alcoholic beverage.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so he's talking about getting everything together, and then I guess the ichor keeps things fresh also, and he needs 2 castles, and he calls up the, I don't know, the place that has all the supply.
And help, and they're he's like communicating with him to get various things that he needs, and they're like, no, we don't have that. Yeah. So he's like, okay, I'm just gonna go there myself. Gotta go in person.
So it goes on to chapter 7.
Or in demon. Is that more proper? He's not going in person, he's going in demon.
In demon, yes.
Yeah.
He's going in demon.
Make the trip to limbo.
So chapter 7. So as he's leaving, he's like starting to get sentimental about the place he was living.
Well,
And
yeah,
he's
he was like actually
oh,
taking care of the chateau while he was there. He said he had local people
even
planting stuff that were
stuff
taking
and
care of it.
yeah, and he's like, oh, they can't smell my stench, and he's wasn't he like doing doctoring or something? He was helping people. Also, it seemed like
Oh,
for
maybe
trade
I
in
missed
body
that.
parts or something. And yeah, and he's like, oh, he's getting sentimental about it, even though he knows it's only temporary. But he left to this crazy storage in the mountains, and
In limbo.
yeah, he like does recite some words, and it opens the whole mountain, just like opens it. It sounds really cool. And yeah, he hops on this bird that somehow is supposed to be dead, acts as a taxi. It's really fascinating how they wrote that.
These megafauna birds from the
Mm-hmm.
Pleistocene.
Mm-hmm. And so he's like trying to find this place, and they're talking about this like laser guns that these demons have, or
There's like lots of
security
guards
have.
around Supply,
Yeah.
which also happens to be on the river Styx.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's
so
like they're describing what the guns do. It's like they turn your brains into tapioca.
yeah. So then he's like, I need a castle. And then the guy who was just like this young, I don't know what he was.
The clerk at the supply warehouse.
And he's like young and sassy, and he's like, we only got one castle, and it has some sort of disappearing part, and that's all we got.
Yeah, it's
like, what?
It's in bad shape.
Yeah.
And as he has to throw his weight around with the
card, and the car like talks or something.
And like, I think maybe
Do
it
what
has
he
like
says.
written in words written in fire on it.
I'm working for the
like,
council, and he's like, oh sure.
Yeah.
Just throw your weight around, yeah. But still, we only have so much, so he gets a disappearing castle part of it disappearing, and he's like, just shuttle it back and forth, and
the clerk just like shuttle it back and forth, make it change the way it looks. You can pretend that it's two different castles.
Yeah,
it sounds like like a film production trick, trying to make one location look like multiple.
Yeah, make it look like it's interesting.
Coconuts for horses. Do what you gotta do.
Yeah. So then it's like, all right, he got a castle wish. And goes on to chapter 8.
He goes back to the chateau. Frank is missing, and so we're tracking him down.
Where's my freak? I'm gonna find him.
Freak.
Freak. So he's meeting with this guy, alchemist. That's his name is Albertus. Alchemist Albertus.
Yeah.
And Master Albertus, the alchemist.
Master Albertus to you.
Yeah. And he's like, Frank's like, oh, I wasn't going. I got a head for you. He has a head. So he's like, I've been looking for these heads. I need them. I have everything except for these heads. So they go down in this like basement kind of area. Okay.
I'll live.
Okay. And in the basement. And he has this head in this vat of who knows what. And it's a head of this girl.
Is there?
Is this a girl? Yeah. And they kind of tell his story.
Philip.
What was it, Philip?
Yeah.
No, oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
It's the man's head.
It's the man's head.
Terrible
But they tell the story about the girl. Mostly. Yeah.
Story of how Philip seduces her and they run off.
Yeah, that's a pretty
And then
boy.
he
And she's like, I'm very pure. And he's like, oh, but not for me.
Not for love.
And then he takes her off. And then he gets distracted with some other woman and leaves her. And
Yeah.
then she, like, ends up going to some place she works for a painter, right? And the painter paints her and it's not too bad of a life, and then somebody
She's
kills
happy.
him
Yeah.
and she's sad again. They kick her out and she turns to prostitution for make money
It's
or
happened
whatever.
to be once. It's happened a dozen times.
So
But then more horrible things happen to her.
and then yeah, more things. So some crazy guy, probably into these kind of things, chops her head off and tears out her eyes. I don't know in which order. And so it's terrible and sad. And then the brothers come and they're like super pissed. Like, this is your fault, that pretty man. It's your fault because you took her away from us in the first place.
Mom already killed the guy that killed her, but the brothers come and they find Felipe, and they're like, you're really the one to blame.
Yeah.
So they kill him in the same way that their sister was killed.
So like, just you. So off with his head and eyeballs. And then he's like, now I just need to find female head.
Yeah, I want to know what happened to.
Yeah.
So he's getting more ideas and more parts, refining the plan.
So now he has a pretty boy voice, which is perfect for Prince Charming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the spelling on
the pretty boy face?
Yeah. What was his name was Miranda. And Felipe. Probably Felipe. Yeah.
Yep.
Felipe's head.
So
that
now
brings
we'll
us,
just see.
Yeah. That brings us to the end of that section. So next week we'll be picking up the section titled Prime. I like this little.
What's the little thing?
Picture. There's a picture of like
the credit card.
The credit card from hell.
Oh.
Don't leave hell without it. It's fun. It's all smoking and stuff.
Thanks for coming.
This is fun. It's been a long time since I've read this.
It's a fun story.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm picking it up again. It's probably been years since I read it. And there's two. It's sort of like a trilogy. Well, of course, all the characters are not the same, but.
I can come into the mist with you.
Oh, you getting fuzzy over there too?
Sorry, go ahead.
To move the camera and then re-angle it or something. Just throw it out. Just get it. But yeah, this is a trilogy. We're not gonna do them back to back. We do have The Stupidest Angel scheduled for the next book.
What are we reading next?
The Stupidest Angel.
No, we're not.
I mean,
70
after this book.
What page?
It should be in the comments.
Oh, okay.
Or not the comments, the description.
Oh, okay.
And the other places it was announced.
Ignore me.
But
Great.
I think it's one or two titled sections. Because we're back at one.
Yeah. So we'll do this like a 3-week thing.
I think it might just be the section titled Prime. And we're gonna go from here to 120. Then it's vary a little bit in different printings. It's just that paperback. There was a hard copy out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the next section.
Looking forward to it. So
Prime.
fun.
And we'll pick that up next week. We have 5 Fridays in November. So I don't know if we'll be starting Stupidest Angel yet, like the final Friday of November, or if we'll take a night off, take a Friday off, and we'll start that in December. But we'll let you all know. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for coming.
If you didn't get to comment in the chat, hope you get to go ahead and just comment down below of the video. Point out anything maybe we missed in the book or things that you liked about it that we might not have covered.